ahead and get started, if that is all right.
Go for it.
Okay. All right.
Click that slide and I'll introduce you.
Okay. Okay, it's not clicking. There I am. Oh, too far. All righty.
All right, so Susan serves as the chair of the training subcommittee of the National Religious Relationships Committee and is also a charter organization representative. Susan is a member at large of the United Methodist Church's Board of Scouting Ministry, and she has served on the National Jamboree Duty to God staff, multiple Philmont and Summit staffs, and was the 2017 Methodist Scouters Conference Director at Seabase. She is passionate about working with adults to promote duty to God and helping youth earn their religious emblems. And then helping Susan today, managing the chat and other features of Zoom, is Carla Christian. Carla is a 20-year BSA volunteer serving in the district, council, national, and international roles. She is a keeper of the Peace Light from Bethlehem and is passionate about sharing its message of peace and friendship, both within and outside of Scouting. She also chairs a 501c3 nonprofit that owns and operates the historic Robert A. Josie Scout Lodge and supports all BSA and GSUSA units in Huntsville, Texas. Susan?
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Amanda. Oh, hold on. Okay, here we go. Just a couple of little Zoom reminders. Please use the raise your hand feature. Please go ahead and mute yourself if you haven't already. That will help keep some of the paper, noise and background noise to a minimum so we can hear each other. We will have time at the end for questions. If you have a question during the presentation, please type it in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat throughout our time together. All right, so our presentation today is called Your Unit's Faithful 3 and Duty to God Resources. This presentation will introduce you to your Unit's Faithful 3 and provide you with some practical ideas and resources for promoting the 12th part of the Scout Law within your unit, and also talk about, bringing the Duty to God program to your troop or to your unit or to your district or to your council. All righty. So who are the Faithful 3? The Faithful 3 are your chartered organization rep, your chaplain, and your chaplain's aide. Now, I know you all know, if you're in BSA, that all units are required to have a key 3. We have a chartered org rep, we have a committee chair, and we have a scoutmaster, but all of your units should have a Faithful 3. Now, units that charter to a faith organization can especially benefit from having an active COR who partners with the charter to help promote, to partner with their charter to benefit their youth by having a special relationship with their faith organization. But I don't want to leave out units that charter to community groups or other civic organizations, because they can also benefit from having an active and trained COR as well. The 12th point of the Scout Law isn't specific for BSA units or Scout BSA units that charter to faith groups. So 12th point of the Scout Law is for everybody, whether you're at a faith, a religious institution or not. I have been asked in the past, why is it the COR and not like a religious emblems coordinator? Well, not all units necessarily have a religious emblems coordinator. A lot of our districts have a religious emblems committee, but not all of them have a COR. But all of your units do have a COR. You know that this representative is somebody that represents the organization at a district and local level. They participate in council meetings and represent your unit. They are also able to represent your organization's concern with your troops. So they're really that great liaison between your unit and wherever you're chartering to. Now, if you charter to a faith institution, this is a great way to partner with the staff of that church and unit. Got an interesting doodles coming up on my screen that I don't know where that's coming from. Units that charter to a faith organization can benefit from having an active COR, and your COR can also assist with the annual planning session with your unit. So I know a lot of people are saying, but I have a COR, and I know when I took the COR position in my unit, and I was a reluctant COR, I loved being on the Scoutmaster side of things. COR to me sounded like a terrible job to have. I was told that really the only thing I had to do was come in once a month and sign some membership papers. And after I did my COR training and I sort of got involved in the working with my unit on the duty to God and the 12th point of the Scout Law, I realized that as a COR, I really could help foster a relationship between, I scout out of a Methodist church. I could help foster that relationship with my unit and my troop. So one thing that I do as a COR that helps with this is at our annual planning sessions, we think about using our religious calendars when we're planning meetings and not just the school calendars. All righty, let me scoot on over here. All right, the third, our chaplain. Our chaplain is our adult volunteer. They provide a spiritual tone for our meetings, and they are the mentor to our chaplain's aide. They encourage scouts to participate in the religious emblems program within their units. They help provide opportunities for the boys to grow in their relationship with God and their fellow scouts. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are leading all of the religious emblems programs, but they're championing that in your unit. Questions I get a lot are, does the chaplain have to be a pastor or a priest? They don't. They can be an adult volunteer that is enthusiastic about this part of the program. Currently have a chaplain in my unit. He happens to be a Sunday school teacher at our church. Our previous chaplain was not. It was another adult volunteer who just was interested in helping mentor our chaplain's aide. Back at the end of 2018, BSA came out with a brand new online chaplain program for chaplaincy training, and it is in the members BSA Learn Center. This training fulfills the position-specific responsibilities and requirements for a chaplain role across all scouting programs. Venture Scouts, Scouts BSA, Cubs. All right, hold on a second. I don't know why I'm, here we go. All right, so the new online chaplaincy training that's been out for just a little less than 2 years takes about an hour to complete, and there are 3 different sections to it. The first module is called Chaplain Roles and Responsibilities. It provides an understanding of various opportunities and identifies the duties of both the chaplain and the chaplain's aide. The second module talks about religious emblems and award, and it introduces participants to the different awards, badges, patches that are available through scouting. And the third module is interfaith considerations that helps participants become aware of the various unit and worship opportunities. This is a really wonderful training, and if you're wondering where the term Faithful 3 came out of, it came out of this new online chaplaincy training. It was developed with many different faith groups that all came together with their resources. They worked alongside each other, the different faith groups, to put this training together. So it is very interfaith, and it really helps you know, foster an interfaith feeling to it. At the end of the course, there are some PDF resources attached that lets you continue on, you know, after the course, so you have some hands-on resources. All right, our chaplain aide is the youth volunteer. They are the third part of our Faithful 3. That is an approved youth leadership responsibility position. The responsibilities of the position are to encourage the spiritual growth and awareness of each member of the troop by assisting the troop chaplain. Now, they'll work with the troop chaplain to compose interfaith services for campouts, maybe prepare a troop prayer. I know lots of units that have they have written their own troop prayer that they have and say before meals and on campouts. They also assist the troop chaplain to conduct religious emblem ceremonies, and they work with their troop chaplain and their COR for Scout Sunday celebrations. They can also participate in their patrol leader council sessions to ensure that there's a spiritual influence, whether that's Vespers, prayers before meals, or religious observances. I was pretty encouraged. We have a wonderful chaplain's aide in my unit right now. He was very discouraged to find out that the position ended and that he would need to move into a different leadership role. And we told him because he just loved serving as a chaplain's aide. He was somebody that was very bold and enjoyed standing in front of the unit and giving prayers. And I was super excited. I told him, you know, you can continue doing this within your own patrol. You don't have to give up all of your chaplain aide responsibilities. But I know from my own experience in my unit, there are people that enjoy serving in these roles. So, you know, the first step in promoting the Scout Law and duty to God in your unit is just find willing volunteers that'll do it. I mean, you can always, of course, volunteer a youth to do it because that's their approved youth leadership position.
Susan, I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. I believe
Oh, sure.
if you end your screen share and then restart it again, those red lines will disappear.
Well, okay. I'll stop it and then bring it up again. I was like, I don't know. It's like somebody's like doing Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, I blocked that setting from now on.
Hold on. All right. Here we go. Can you see that?
Nope, click the share button again.
Oh, okay, hold on just a minute. Share screen, sorry about that. Desktop. All right. Okay, here we go. Can you see that again?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm back to our duty to God. A scout is reverent. He is reverent towards God. He is faithful in his religious duties and respects the convictions of others in matters of custom and religion. So step one, find out what religions and faith groups are represented in your unit. I mentioned that I scout out of United Methodist Church. Many of the scouts in our unit do not belong to our church. They are not Methodist or Protestant. We have a number of Catholics in our unit. We have some Muslims in our unit. So step one, find out what faith groups your unit represents. And then let's talk about some ways that we can implement duty to God practices into our units. Some suggestions are prayers before meetings, prayers before campouts or meals. Another one is to take dietary concerns into consideration when planning your campouts. Make sure you aren't just looking at the school calendars, I mentioned this, but look at religious holidays as well. Especially if you are planning, if you have Jewish scouters in your unit, you would want to take into consideration some of their practices as well. We're going to have a panel discussion later in the week, just exactly on this topic of how to work with different religions within a particular unit, whether that's dietary concerns or what. All right, so how do you go about finding duty to God resources? You can find many of them on the official BSA website, scouting.org. There are lots of videos. I'm not going to play this video. It uses up a lot of bandwidth and it gets kind of choppy. But go to the scouting.org website, and there is, even if that's just your first step, you're going to find a lot of information there. Videos that you can show the youth in your group, videos that your chaplains and your chaplain's aide can watch together when they are making plans. And of course, Amanda, I think, put in our chat already, we have a Duty to God BSA website that we put religious calendars up at. So if you don't know where to go, I love referring people to the Duty to God BSA website. We have lots of videos up there as well. Last year, the social media team did an amazing set of videos, different faith walks with different religious groups. Those are also great to pull up for your unit. You could look at one from a different faith group as well. Yeah. I don't know if that's okay. If you have a question, if you would raise your hand or put it in their chat for later, we will address those when we get to them. All right, so think about creating a toolkit for your chaplains and your chaplain's aide. I realized in my unit, we have a resource library where we have merit badge books that when people are done with them, they donate. We have an extensive library with all kinds of things. I realized that we were kind of lacking on faith kit. So we didn't have a lot of faith books together or resources for our chaplain's aide. There are lots of great PDFs available online on the folder and the link that you get from Amanda. I put a lot of the resources up that I've been talking about. PDFs of the Eagles Soaring High, various Scout books are up there as well. One of my favorites is the Big Book of Scout Worship Services. That's up there as well. And those are great to go to when you're planning an interfaith service. This is an actual toolbox that we created for our chaplain and chaplain's aide in my unit. It is very simple plastic clipboard that opens, and inside it has some books we picked up, the Eagles Soaring High from Philmont, Strength for Service devotional, the Sea-Based Majestic Depths book. That little Game of Thrones guy in there is a USB, and that has a whole bunch of electronic resources on there. So the Big Book of Scout Worship Services is in there. You'll see on the picture on the left, that is an interfaith worship template. And that can be filled out Sunday morning or Saturday afternoon while you're at a camp, and you can plan an interfaith service while you're there. So our USB contains blank worship planning templates. It contains some PDF resources so that when we finish using up what's in there, things can be reprinted. And this has been great. It'll literally fit in a backpack. It lives in our troop trailer, and it accompanies us on our campouts. So this is a way to plan an interfaith service. All right, so we talked about interfaith service. What's a Scout's own service? There are two different kinds. I am not saying my unit has interfaith services every time they go camping, but I think more often than not, we have a Scout's own service, which is usually based on a particular theme. It could be about the outdoors. It could just be a few minutes of a reflection time that maybe doesn't necessarily have, I wouldn't say no faith in it, but it's a short time that we have set aside on Sunday to have a bit of a worship. That doesn't mean that it isn't specific to any worship. It just is more on a theme of friendship or outdoors or nature. All right, an interfaith service is where we plan a service that includes parts of worship, maybe from several different religions. I'm excited to invite you guys at the end of our Faith Week this week. We are going to be hosting an interfaith service on Sunday afternoon, and we have invited many of the faith groups represented in our trainings this week to put on a live interfaith service. So that won't be with Zoom. You'll have to join us through our Duty to God Facebook page. But we will have virtual readings and presentations from many of the different groups. Our Jewish Scouters, our Catholic Scouters, many of our Protestant Scouters will all be leading us in different scriptures and prayers and songs. So if you've never done an interfaith service with your own unit or with your district, please join us on Sunday and invite your Scouts to join us so they will have an idea of what that looks like. We did this back in May in our district. We had a Mother's Day service that was an interfaith service, and so it went pretty well. We were hoping to have more participants, but it was a great example of what can be done. Of course, it was virtual since we were still during COVID time. So interfaith combines and is, interfaith is one that is inclusive to different faiths. Scouts Own is a different service that maybe is more themed or outdoors. All right, and I like to say, of course, there is a patch for that. So I'm sure many of you know, you probably have earned or have helped youth earn their youth religious emblem. So that is the silver knot on the purple background. And you know, of course, that those have to be earned through their individual religious unit. And you can find information on the religious emblems through the Pray website. Now, those are going to be your Protestant, more so of your Protestant emblems. If you have a specific faith, Catholic, Jewish, or Islamic Scouters, you wouldn't find their religious emblems there. But we have all of those different religions represented this week that are doing, they are hosting workshops where they're talking more about their specific faith requirements. So I'm just going to touch a little bit that there's a patch for that. Have your chaplain and chaplain's aide champion these, and then if you're not familiar with what goes into earning these, what the requirements are, please take a look at some of the workshops this week and join in so you can see. I'm not an authority on a lot of the other faith group patches. I know what it takes for a lot of the Protestant ones to work. A lot of times, you know what that is, that it takes volunteers and adults that are committed to help with those programs. Of course, we know that one of the things about our religious emblem knot is that once it's earned, it is one of the knots that follows you all the way up to your adult uniform. So I love seeing adults that are wearing their knot that they earned as a youth. And there is a patch for you as well as an adult Scouter. It is one that is earned by nomination only. But if you are promoting the religious emblems, you're teaching the courses, and you're helping the youth to earn them, you have probably qualified for that adult religious service knot. So take a look at it. You can find the requirements and the resources on the Pray website and the BSA website. All right, and how do we find out about our religious emblems? You can go to the BSA Scouting website. Like I said, Pray handles many of the Protestant religions, the Catholic Committee on Scouting, as well as the Jewish Scouters. Our LDS Scouters are Vanguard. Those are our former Latter-day Saints, and they have their own specific religious emblems, and you'll need to contact your faith group directly to get more information about that. The Religious Emblems Duty to God, you can find this resource on the web. It's also going to be on the folder at the end of the week so that you can pull it up and see what the patches, medals, and emblems look like specific to your faith. It's a really nice poster chart. You can go through and see. You can look up United Methodist, you can look up Universal Unitarian, and you will be able to see all of the different awards that can be earned specific to your faith group. It'll show the ages for the particular emblems that you earn. Some of them, you can't go back in time, so if you miss earning an emblem when you are in elementary school, you can't just go back in the past and earn it. So start early as Cubs and look into the program if you're interested in earning them. Of course, we know it is not necessary to earn them to, move up and be promoted in scouting. However, the 12th point of the Scout Law is there for everybody. So, it's not just extra credit or frosting on your cake. It is something that we hope will be part of your scouting journey and walk throughout your time in Boy Scouts. All right. This is one of my favorite websites, the Duty to God BSA one. Amanda referenced to it. This is where we have gathered a whole bunch of information and kind of put it in a one-stop shop for you to find. Social media links have great videos, the faith walks, resources. You'll get to see all kinds of upcoming trainings. We have religious calendars. We also have all the different faith groups broken out so that you can find your faith group, link over and find a real person to talk to and ask questions from. We will also keep it updated with, as you know, this summer, we're virtual. Next summer, we hope to have all of our faith classes back in person at the Philmont Training Center. Of course, next summer will be Jamboree as well. But, check on this page. Bookmark it and come back to it. We update this all the time. It is kept current, and you will see the upcoming events. So as we know of councils, as we know of areas that are hosting stuff, those get put on our Duty to God BSA page. It is definitely the first place that I go to when I am looking to make contact with a faith group, or if I'm just looking for resources. It is fabulous. All right. Let me see if I can go on without, okay. So we talked about our electronic resources. I have tried to gather all of the resources that I currently use, resources that have been shared with me that I've picked up through other trainings. Some of them I refer to here. The Interfaith Worship templates are there, PDFs to different scouting worship books. There's some links to some articles. There is also a Faithful 3 brochure that is up there. So if you don't have a Faithful 3 in your unit, you can print out that brochure and take it in. We also have the Duty to God and Religious Emblem material also up on that Google Drive so that you can go in there and find that and try to find some, if you have anything there that you need. Okay, I've waved my hands and talked really fast for half an hour, so I would like to open it up for questions. You can raise your hand. I don't know, Carla, if we've had any come up in the chat that you've seen.
We have a couple, but I think a lot of them have been answered. Let me run back through here just to be sure.
Okay. Oh, I see Paula's hand has gone up. If you want to unmute, I can. Yeah, if you want to unmute and ask, go ahead.
Hi, I put this up in chat not knowing you were wrapping up like in 2 seconds. So so you can ignore the chat question. The items that you have here that you say are in your, the Google Drive that you were just talking about, can we connect to that through the Duty to God BSA.org website? Or how do we connect to that?
I don't think we put that up on our Duty to God website. I think we made a specific Google Drive just for this virtual Faith Week.
We're waiting for the Google Drive to get populated and then we'll link it to the website. I did just drop the Google Drive link back into the chat if you want to click on that.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. Wonderful. All right, any other questions for Amanda? No, I'm just kidding.
Susan, Christy asked shortly after the session started if the Bible basics are being recorded. She said she signed up and then realized they're at the same time as the Duty to God videos.
I don't think our Bible basics are being recorded because we have youth on this. Is that correct, Amanda?
That's correct. There's too many youth on it. So for YPT, in case they share personal stories, we aren't recording the Bible basics. However, you can find all of the syllabus information for those. If you go to praypub.org, there's a spot where you can enter your email address and they will send you all of the different syllabi.
Yeah. And I am a huge fan of the Bible basics. They're one of my favorite materials to come out of Pray. They're great for campouts and for working within your unit. I see a hand from Diane, if you want to unmute.
My question was, with a Cub Pack, you're not going to have a chaplain's aide. You
That's
might have a chaplain, but with a Cub Pack, you're not going to have a chaplain's aide, unless I suppose it could be. What are those ones that come over to help the Cub Scouts from the Boy Scouts? Den chiefs.
Den chief.
Correct.
You have a den chief. That'd be the only way a Cub Pack would have a chaplain's aide.
Correct. Yes, I was more talking about for your BSA units, but still have you kind of have to start with, no matter whether it's boy led, you really need to start with some adults that this is something that they're passionate about seeing happen.
So as the Cub Pack, if we wanted to, like, ask the deacon if he wanted to be the chaplain, we would probably wind up registering him and paying for his registration.
Right. And that's not always a bad thing to do. We've done that for the pastor that is the head of our charter as well.
Then he would be getting all the information.
Correct. Yeah.
So that, something to think about. But yeah, I like that. I mean, I'm the COR, so these are things I didn't know.
Perfect. Well, and honestly, when I came over as COR, and I call it sort of I work at the United Methodist Church that I scout out of. I'm in the youth office. So this kind of, the youth department, I mean, it's kind of a full circle good position for me to be in. I love being COR. I work at my church. It's easy to foster relationship and talk to our pastor when we are planning Scout Sunday. And I'm very fortunate that a lot of the staff at my church are also Scout families. So it's very easy to scout out of our faith institution. When I joined our unit, our head pastor, who has 4 sons in scouting, he was not our chaplain. He was an assistant scoutmaster. So he could have easily been our chaplain. He definitely worked with our youth and worked with our chaplain's aide as a mentor. But that wasn't the role he wanted in our unit. So I do like to point out that, your chaplain, your adult chaplain, it would be great if they were a pastor, but they don't have to be. Many of the ones I know are just kind of adult volunteers that have a heart for this.
Okay.
Well, while we have Diane front and center, she asked earlier if the chaplain needed to be a registered scouter, and it looks like that was answered in the chat. Diane, did you get the information you wanted there?
I did. They need to be registered.
They need to be
Okay,
registered.
great.
And it is a position specific. It has a number. I don't know the lingo, but yeah. And they, do the new 2018 online chaplaincy training. It has a lot of great information in that. I think it's a really excellent training.
I like the suggestion, if the deacon doesn't want to do it, that we can ask a Sunday school teacher.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
That's how we found our chaplain for our unit right now. He happened to be working. He was working with younger kids, not our Boy Scout age, but something he's excited about. And when you find that right volunteer that he was so excited to be asked to be chaplain, I thought, yes, we've hit the nail on the head. So that was, you hate when you're having to hold somebody's arm behind their back and, they'll like reluctantly agree to do it. But when you find somebody that truly is passionate and has a heart for youth and for faith, that's amazing.
well, and our fall activities are just so up in the air. And I'm sure everybody's feeling the same thing. We don't know what's happening for fall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would like to ask, unless there's some other questions, is, what are some things practices that your units are doing that you would like to share that have been successful in your unit or in your district? I will take, David has raised his hand. If you want to unmute.
Jump in here. Our council has renamed or doesn't use the name 10 Commandment Hikes and have substituted 12 Point hikes
Okay.
to open doors to mosques, Hindu and Buddhist temples that may not have been as welcoming to a Ten Commandment hike.
Oh, that's excellent. And thank you for pointing that out, because I had put this slide in before. We are having a discussion later in the week on faith hikes. So we didn't call it a 10 Commandment hike. And we also will have some specific ones being led. We do have somebody leading a Catholic discussion on like a 10 Commandment hike later in the week as well. So that's one of the topics that's up there. I haven't seen it done in person, but I've heard about other councils doing them.
Susan,
Go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know whether or not you can hear me. In our particular council, we are still using the name Ten Commandment Hikes, but we've never had a problem inviting members of the Islamic faith to join in. And that's been because they do recognize, the fact that they have a common ancestry, as it were, and they've never had a problem with it. Now, of course, reaching out to other faith groups is a bit of a problem, but we've never had any problem with the people that we've had on our hikes participating in that regard.
That is awesome. That is great to hear. I know the Atlanta Area Council, and I'm looking at some of y'all that are here with us today, that have had Duty to God retreats.
If you'll let me speak to that, this is John Lyon, and I can mention about the Duty to God encampment, but more importantly, to tie into what you just said, we'll have a faith walk, and sometimes if we are having an extensive group that has to travel around, they'll be separated by significant distance, and we'll have about 8 stations. My one comment is consistent with what we had seen at the National Jamboree. When the Sikhs are there, they are one of the most popular because they do turbans for all the youth, and that is extraordinary. But to go along with what else we do, we have broken out and now have a council Cub Scout Religious Emblems Day where we focus on trying to get a vast majority of the requirements done. It varies by faith, but we've been able to offer, again, about 8 different faith groups for that. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. I know in my own unit, Scout Sunday is a big blowout day for us. It is one that is looked forward to by our unit and our charter. We have a long tradition of celebrating with our Methodist Church. Of course, this past year, we celebrated 100 years of charter partnership with the BSA. So this was a big year for the United Methodist Churches. In our unit, I don't even know, I think it started before my time, and I've been in scouting, in Boy Scouts 19 years. We award religious emblems that are earned on Scout Sunday. We do flag presentations. We usher. We're just a whole bunch of that service that day. But what we're known for is making about 36 different cobblers to serve between services to our congregation. And so, we are a big hit on Scout Sunday. We sometimes will set up a mock campsite in the front lawn of the church, but that is a day that we have a wonderful presence with our faith organization. We have a chance to visit with them, and we're not just that group that's messing up the gym on Monday nights. So I love Scout Sunday. I look forward to planning it with our unit. Sometimes it has a different flavor, but for the most part, we just have a really great annual tradition with our church on Scout Sunday. So I hope your units do as well. Is there any other? Go ahead.
I want to circle back to Beth L. from Kalamazoo real quick.
Okay,
She
sure.
asked if where she could get the Eagles Soaring High PDF, and I wanted to make sure you saw that Amanda posted that up in the chat for you.
Okay, terrific. Yes.
I also just added it to the Google Drive to Susan's folder.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I have tried some of these come out of needs and wants as I've scouting in my own scouting experience. And so, as much as I've been involved in scouting ministry for the Methodist Church, sometimes I find my own unit didn't have any religious resources. And I thought, how could that be? I'm so plugged in here. So, a simple thing like a clipboard toolbox has been great. And I asked around and people donated the books to me that they had because I guarantee you, you probably know somebody that's been to Philmont that has an eagle soaring high. But I did make the little USB to collect additional resources. And as I find PDFs and electronic resources, I just add them to that thumb drive for my chaplain's aide, for my chaplain. And now they just run with it.
So my name is Tom. I'm over in Michigan. I wanted to share a couple of things. One, every year for Scout Sunday as a district, we try to sponsor Scout Sunday services for those units who either are not associated with a faith group or do not have the resources to put on a one. And we usually have been pretty successful with that. Typically, it's been a Catholic and a Protestant service. One of the challenges I have, and I am actually a district chaplain, is while a lot of units have chaplain's aides, a lot of units do not have chaplains, and their chaplain's aides unfortunately suffer because of it. They don't have someone mentoring them through the process. One of the things I'm starting to recommend is that if they can't get or find a chaplain, and I've been promoting that a priest or non-minister can do it as long as they have a relationship with their pastor, is have an assistant scoutmaster mentor the chaplain's aide if at all possible. Because unfortunately, it's become, in a lot of troops, it's become an office that, oh, you mean I have to do this, and not, wait a minute, I can make a difference here.
Right.
So I wanted to share that as well.
Well, thank you. I think that is totally legitimate concern. And I think there are people that are intimidated by the responsibility of being the chaplain. Like, I mean, if you're your pastor, that's like your full-time job. Maybe if you're a Sunday school teacher, that's not an intimidating job. But there are adults that don't necessarily feel like they're ready to lead a youth as a chaplain's aide. And I would say, check out that new online chaplaincy training. And I'm not just trying to promote it. I think it's a really wonderful training that'll kind of take a little bit maybe of I hate to say the pressure off, but it kind of explains in detail what your role as the chaplain is.
I've taken that training, and it does do a great job of answering the 5 W's, the who, what, where, when, why. I've had a number of people come up to me, and myself included, my opinion is it doesn't do justice on the how.
Okay.
And we've been working on, and I personally have been working on a lot of training for that. In fact, that was my wood badge ticket on trying to improve upon that.
Okay. Well, that's great feedback. That is good to know. I appreciate you letting us know that.
Susan, this is Paula again from Rochester. So I've been the district chaplain here in Seneca Waterways Council for 5 years. And so one of the things I started was a chaplain's aide workshop that I would hold either like during our University of Scouting weekend when we had a few youth track items, and I would hold it then. And I went through with them, here are the duties, I had handouts, I had templates for interfaith and multi-faith. Our area has a very multi-faith flavor to it. A large percentage of our troops are multi-faith. So these issues come up constantly. And then I have a duty to God piece I teach to the adults as well. And part of some of the discussions that have come out of that is our council religious emblems committee sponsors what we call a journey of faith walk or hike. And we actually map it out each time to be a 5-mile hike, so that those who need to do their 5-mile hike for a rank requirement get their 5-mile hike. But it's usually we have about 8 faith communities that have a stop at their place, and we sort of have an outline of the kinds of things that we want them to share. And we had 75 people at last year's, and and they're clamoring like, when can we do it again? We know COVID, but when can we do it? Right. So that's been by calling it Journey to Faith, the patch even has symbols from all the faiths that are generally represented in our area. And it allowed us to really include the Buddhists and the Hindus, which are 2 of our larger sets that don't use 10 Commandment language. And then as part of both of the classes I teach and any of the individual things I do, I teach them how to do a Scout's Own service. Or I help, many times as we come into Scout Sunday as a district chaplain, what I've offered is, hey, if you want to send your outline to me, I'll take a look at it. And so I've been taking a look and helping them tweak whether it's language or whatever. And as a result, the Presbyterian church that charters my son's unit, it's still, as my son will put it, it's a very Jesus-y thing.
Sure.
But what they do is they select items in there to have him participate in reading, because we're Jewish.
Yeah.
So Jesus-y things aren't things. So they make sure that there's at least readings and things where we can participate. And yeah, they do a pretty good job at a lot of the music. And it's been a very interesting educational process, but there's a lot of different areas we're working on simultaneously.
That's awesome. No, that was me taking notes of your Journey of Faith walk. Thank you. No, those are some great ideas. The Chaplain's Aid workshop is a fabulous idea as well, because you want those youth to be leading that and promoting it as well. So thank you for sharing. I saw a few other hands go up. If you have something you'd like to share, this is always my favorite time of the workshop. I love kind of the round table and hearing ideas, because these are things that I'm going to obviously take back to my own unit and my district as well. And so I appreciate all of the sharing. If you'll go ahead, unmute yourself if there's something you'd like to say. I see Nora has a hand up.
Hi, I was looking for some advice on the Jesus thing. And whether one should make guidelines for prayer, and whether the guidelines should be different for children versus adults. I have no problem with whatever a child says that comes out of their heart and spontaneous. I think adults can take a little time and be conscious and respectful of the other faiths that are present. But I don't know if anybody has worked out something other than that.
Susan, you want me to take this one?
Sure.
So from the National Committee, when we do the Duty to God breakfast, we have actually made the comment to our committee members, and the other professionals are really good with it when they're there, of we're asking a specific scout from a specific faith to pray the way that they would want to pray. And so everybody's respectful of that. If we're doing a general opening prayer for committee meetings or for troop meetings, other things like that, the generic terminology we use is God. We try to stay away from Jesus and all the more specific people that would get into different faith groups, and just use the generic term of God as that higher power.
Thank you.
In terms of more resources, I don't think we have it written anywhere.
This is Bob from Augusta.
Hi, Bob.
To add into that what you just said, Amanda, one of the things that has been suggested in the past is that purposely look at some of the resources and use resources from other faiths. For example, there's a lot of Native American resources that give good prayers, but start it off and say, this is a prayer from this faith. And so it's a way of educating as well. So you can share other faiths and get the knowledge across the board for all your scouts. So you can pull prayers from any faith and share them and let people know that's where it comes from.
All right, we got about 2 more minutes, and then we're going to need to close this one off for the next classroom.
There's
Susan,
one more
this is
comment
John
I
Lyon.
wish to
I
make.
have just one quick thing on a novel approach for Scout Sunday, and I wish I could claim this as my own idea, but I can't. My executive pastor came up with it.
Okay.
What we do is, and it's little known, but Scout Sunday, Sabbath, and Shema can all be shifted according to an individual congregation's way of doing it. So it doesn't have to occur during that first part of February. How we use that is that our Scout Sunday at my church is always the Sunday before time change. And it's done deliberately because we have Scout Sunday, and at the end of that day, as people are exiting our campus, they're receiving a Scouting for Food bag. And then the following Sunday, on Time Change Sunday, where there's all manner of encouragement to get folks there on time, we just tell them to leave their donations behind their car. And we go around in the parking lot and scoop them all up. And for 4 years running, we're over 4,200 items. So I think that's pretty successful when you look at it and say, this is great, and it wasn't my idea. Thanks.
That is an excellent idea, John. Thanks for sharing. And you did bring up a good point. I was thinking about this. My United Methodist Church, we tend to bump ours from the first Sunday to the second Sunday for communion purposes. So we, and I do have a lot of Catholic Scouts in our unit, so we encourage them to have Scout Sunday at their home church if it's on the calendar for the first Sunday in February, and then join their charter troop unit on the second one. We do have a Scout Sunday presentation later in our week. We have a scouter out of California that does an entire month of Scout Sunday celebrations where they visit a different faith group each week. And they invite all the different units to join them. And they have literally 4 Scout Sundays in a row. They have an amazing patch that goes with that. And it has ribbons that you can add to it when you visit the different religious institutions. And so that's been really awesome. So I know that her name's Susan Parks. I know she's later in the week. I'd have to look on the schedule to see when she's going to be talking. But if that's something you might be interested in doing, definitely catch her discussion.
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
One last question or one last comment I want to make is on this whole idea of doctrine and if you have multi-faith groups, avoid anything doctrine specific. So if you have Jewish, we mentioned something about Jesus and, some of the other ones. The other thing is, and this is a true story, that at a camporee, at an interfaith service, someone said, let's pray to the north wind because he had a Native American prayer. A lot of God-centric people got very upset about that because they do only pray to their God. They do not pray to something like the north wind. So the comment there is, let us share a prayer to the north wind, but we never ask anybody to pray to something outside of their beliefs. So please, please, please be aware of the doctrine and avoid anything doctrine specific because it can blow up.
Thank you. And Paula put in the chat that she has a handout that she uses on interfaith languages that she opens most of her prayers with, Creator of all of us. So that excellent point brought up. Thank you for sharing that.
Susan, before we close, we had several other questions in the chat, but I know that we're out of time. How would you like for people to contact you to get that information?
They are welcome to, I'll put my email in. They are welcome to email me directly. Hold on just a second. All right. My email is Susan L. for lawyer at goodchurch.us. And Amanda dropped hers in as well. And if I don't know the answer, I will get you in touch with somebody who can answer your question. And if it's a faith specific, I'll be happy to try to help you get connected to a faith group. So, I'd just like to thank you guys for participating today. You brought some great discussions to the table. You asked some really wonderful questions. Thanks for letting me talk real fast. And you didn't know I was waving my arms back here, but I was. And so I tend to go off on squirrel really quick if I don't have my handouts in front of me. So, but thank y'all for joining us.